Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. Someone encouraged and inspired this host, a former lawyer, gambler, inmate, and his life was transformed. The same can happen to you. When you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcasts, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. A shout out to the latest supporters of this podcast, Olivia Barbro, Clint and Jonette Cozart, and Leonard and Cynthia Meekins. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books. I'm available for speaking engagements, in person, and virtual seminars, so please contact me through my website, www.dealbyme.com. I have with me Phebe Trotman, who is a champion for personal growth and believes that reaching one's full potential creates a ripple effect of inspiration and motivation. Phebe is passionate about helping others on their own journeys to unlocking their potential and living their best lives. With her dedication to empowering others, Phebe is a powerful force for positive change. I'm thrilled to have her as a guest of this podcast today. So, Phebe, welcome to the podcast. And will you share a little bit about yourself and where you are being interviewed from?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on. I absolutely love what you're doing with this podcast because it is so important to just continue to encourage people, inspire, and then we see that transformation, which is just incredible. So kudos to you for everything you're doing with this podcast. And thank you again for having me on today. So a little bit about me. So I am actually calling in from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So I grew up in the suburbs of Vancouver in an area called Coquitlam. I started playing soccer at a very young age, mostly because my older brother played. I wanted to follow in his footsteps and started playing. And just continued on playing right through to this day. I still play, and I've had incredible championships and personal accolades, and it's all been an incredible playing ground, if you will, to learn a lot of life skills that I've been able to transfer over as an entrepreneur now. And I've been an entrepreneur for the last 17 years. So it's been a lot of fun, a lot of bumps in the road, a lot of growth, a lot of learning new things. And here we are at this stage in life.
Well, you are very interesting. I must admit, I've had a chance to look at your profile, and what you're doing is very, very intriguing, inspiring, and also very encouraging. So I have to admit that. And I thought you would be a good fit for my podcast. So I want to, first of all, just highlight something that you said in your earlier statements, and especially as in your profile. Say, you asked a question. She said, have you ever experienced the urge to quit? You know, whether it's a goal, a dream, or anything else in life. And I thought that was a very challenging question because most folks have been there. Most folks have some dreams, but somehow they don't seem like it's possible for them to accomplish it. So talk a little bit about that, just a little bit, as we get started with this interview, because you are an interesting and intriguing person. So I know this is going to be very, very encouraging for listeners of this podcast.
Well, thank you. And yeah, the reason I throw that question out there is because, let's be honest, we've all faced times where we've wanted to quit on something, whether it is a goal, a dream, a business, a job, working out. Like there's always some stuff that can come up because we're human. We're human and we feel emotions. And, oftentimes we want to quit something. It's usually when we're feeling those negative emotions. We're frustrated. We're not seeing the results that we want to see. Some stuff isn't happening fast enough. We've been treated unfairly. There's something that happens that creates this negative emotion. And that's often when we want to quit. And I truly believe when we push through that to get to the other side of it, that's where that growth happens. That's where part of the transformation happens, because you learn how to deal with those emotions. You learn how to focus on what can you control in that challenging situation. What can you do to move yourself forward? And, I always say, because, the name of my book is Never Quit on a Bad Day. And I can always hear people saying like, wait, what do you mean I can never quit? No, that's not what we're saying at all. If we're saying that if you're going to quit something or you're going to move forward into something else, do it on a good day. Do it when you've had a chance to move through the negative side. You're on the other side of it. And then if you decide, it's not serving you anymore, it's not aligned with your purpose, your values, maybe it's a lifestyle choice or something that isn't helping you move forward to where you want to go, then it might be time to quit that and transition into something else or move forward into something else. Just saying, when you're going to do that, do it on a good day.
I like that. I like that. Now, being this entrepreneur that you are, and obviously reading your profile, you're doing a great job with it. So tell us how you got started as an entrepreneur. What was that motivating factor that pushed you to where you are?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I had always had this vision of having something I could work from home. My mom stayed home with my brother and I as we were young, and she had a home-based business. So in the back of my mind, I always knew I wanted something. I didn't know what that looked like. And I went to university, graduated, I was working full-time at a computer company, and I just was really uninspired at my job. So I started side projects. My background in athletics was soccer. I started a coaching company with a teammate of mine. I started community event with some business partners to bring kind of the Caribbean and African community together. And I started learning about passive income, and I wanted to create some of that. And so I started real estate investing. So I was juggling all these balls in the air while I was working full time. And I really would build my business in pockets of my day, or these businesses, I should say. And in my mind, I kind of had this plan that I was going to continue to build up these businesses and income streams. And then when I was ready, I would, leave my full-time position. I'd transfer it, like transition into being a full-time entrepreneur. And it didn't quite work out that way. I heard this saying a long time ago, sometimes when you won't make a move, God makes that move for you.
No
And
question.
yeah, so I had my boss came into my office one day and he said, I had some bad news, and unfortunately the company was going bankrupt and we were all laid off. And for anyone who's listening, there's a lot of emotions that happen when you're faced with being laid off. And, one hand I was like, oh my gosh, great, I don't have to go to work. And the next hand it was like, well, what next? And in that moment, I kind of paused and looked forward as to what do I want my life to look like? And I knew I wanted to have control of my time, and I love to travel. So I wanted to be able to have something that I could build from anywhere. And while I was juggling all those balls in the air, a friend of mine had introduced me to this network marketing company. And really, I just got started because I thought I could use it as a tool for my businesses, because it's a service based. And I was like, oh, this can actually help me. And when I paused in that moment of kind of being laid off for a little bit, I looked and I was like, well, here's a business I can build from anywhere. It's connecting with people. It has a lot of, potential, if you will. And so I decided then that that's what I was going to do. And it was an interesting journey at the start, because I was coming from this like soccer world, and I studied kinesiology, and then I'm working at this job. And then all of a sudden it's like, guess what? You're building your business. And I wasn't consistent in the beginning. I wanted these consistent results. However, I wasn't doing the consistent work. And so a lot of bumps in the road until I really started looking at it and creating a system behind it, and taking some of the skills I learned as an athlete in terms of commitment, time management, discipline, and putting that into my business world. And then I started to see the results.
Wow, what awesome, story. Is inspiring and really just amazing. I don't know any other words that I could put to it. You've obviously had, and I assume, challenges along the way, especially when you are, being faced as an entrepreneur. So, could you talk about those challenges that you kind of had to deal with? Because there are a lot of people who, want to do some stuff, but they don't know how to handle these challenges that come along with it. Can you share a little bit about how you dealt with yours?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the great things about building a network marketing company is there's typically systems in place that you can kind of plug into and follow along in the system.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges with building a network marketing company is there's a lot of preconceived notions about what network marketing actually is. So there's a lot of resistance up front when you're just wanting to share something. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have built network marketing businesses in not the most ethical ways, and that's given it kind of a bad rap, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I found in the beginning was I really just I thought it was a great service that I just wanted people to know that it existed, whether or not they wanted to use it, totally fine with me. It didn't bother me whether they said yes or no. But I had to grow into that where it was just like, hey, you know what? I see the value in this. I see what I can create with it. There is a system in place. There are people who've created success. So in the beginning, it was kind of boring some of that belief, if you will, until I could have my own results in terms of my business. And so one of the things I always encourage people to do is you have to have that belief, right? You have to have your own sense of like determination and commitment and knowing what you can achieve. It doesn't matter what someone else says. Who are you taking your advice from? Who are you listening to? Because, I've heard this saying before, like other people's opinions, their opinions aren't the ones that are paying your bills. So if you have a vision for what you want to create in terms of your business, a lifestyle, goals, and dreams, who are you listening to? Who's around you? Are they speaking life into those goals or dreams, or are they tearing them down? Because oftentimes our friends and family, they have the best, they mean well. They're trying to shield us from some of the criticism or the negative stuff that may happen. And a lot of times it's from a good place. However, if they haven't done what you're looking to do, why are we listening to those people? Right. So it's something to just think about. And, I was fortunate. I had family who were extremely supportive, but I also had friends and family members who weren't extremely supportive. And, it could have went in a total different direction if I leaned into what they said versus leaning into the ones who were like, well, you know what, you can create success. If that's something you want to do, take that same mindset and determination of from another avenue. For my case, it was soccer. Take that same commitment and dedication that I applied there and I created success, and now bring it over into this world. So I always encourage people, look at some of your past successes and pull that confidence. What did you do back then to get that result? And can we move that over here and have that same belief and confidence and vision for what you want to create?
That is so very powerful. I'm sitting here with almost chills just listening to you and how you move from taking the skills from playing soccer to being an entrepreneur. Yeah, and that says so much. How you can just take what you were good at and move that into another area that you also want to be good in. So that's very meaningful. I hope listeners are listening, will listen to this, because that's powerful. I know you wrote a book on this, and you probably could say so much more about it, and I'm going to talk about that just a little later. But let me ask you this: what is one activity or exercise that has helped you grow, on your journey to create a life you love? Because it seems from talking with you that you are really on the path of doing something that you really enjoy. And I remember my mom telling me when she was in New York working, she said she never went to work a day that she didn't enjoy her job. And I thought that was so interesting, because a lot of folk can't say that, but it seems like you're there in your life. So talk about that a little bit with us.
Yeah. So one activity I always encourage people, and it's a frame of mind, if you will, in terms of gratitude. And so one of the things that is just so important, I started this very, very early on, even when I did have a lot of stuff that was challenging was I added a practice of gratitude to my day. And it's something very simple. And now I have moments of gratitude throughout my day. But one thing that I did, and I encourage people to do it, is set a calendar invite in your calendar. So I literally have at 9:10 p.m. Pacific every single day, a calendar invite pops up. It's an event in my calendar. It pops up and it says, I am so happy and grateful that. And it's every single day, 9:10 p.m. Pacific. And so when that happens, it forces me to pause right where I am. Sometimes I'm driving. If I'm driving, I don't close my eyes, but I can still do this practice of gratitude. If I'm at home, I just close my eyes. And just for that sometimes it's 30 seconds, sometimes it's a minute, it varies. And just what am I grateful for in that exact moment? And the reason I do that is because gratitude just helps us shift our perspective, right? It gives us hope. It allows us to think about something that is meaningful, and it changes our energy. It changes our state. When we're thinking in gratitude, we're in that emotion of something that's positive, right? And so I encourage people to do that because it helps. Again, gratitude doesn't minimize what you're going through. It just shifts that perspective to hope. And one of the things too, and I say this, it's so important because you mentioned your mom and her job, that every day she went to work with, she never went to work where she wasn't enjoying what she did. Now, here's the thing I always challenge people. Someone may be in a situation where they don't love their job per se. However, what can you be grateful for about that job? Is it your coworkers? Is
Okay.
it the fact that you have a paycheck that lets you
Mm.
do other things that you love? Is it the fact that maybe you have a benefits pack? Whatever it is, like, figure out what you can be grateful for in that moment. And one of the things that I did with my business very early on, when I wasn't getting the results from a financial standpoint that I was wanting, is I broke it down into what I called gratitude gems.
Mhm.
And I focused on certain categories. So, one category were people. Who are the people that I have now had a chance to connect with that, had I not said yes to joining this business, I never would have connected with? And I listed
Mm.
them and I just kept there listening. What about the mentors? Who are the mentors that now I have access to because I said yes to this business? What about myself, the person I've grown into because I said yes to this business? And I would break this down into gems, and each section I would write what I'm grateful for, and I continue to add it. And when I was having those days where I was not happy with something that was happening in my business, I'd pull it up on my phone and I'd start reading it and I just scan it. And then again, it shifted that perspective, because oftentimes we're just like, we look at one thing with tunnel vision. It's like,
Mhm.
well, for example, in a business, I should be making money. That is why I'm in this business, to make money. And yes, absolutely. However, if we can pull it back a bit and have a bigger picture, what are the other things that you have now had a chance to experience because you said yes to that business, or because of your job? What is something? And again, I've done this with people all over, where for your job, it might be the paycheck that's allowed you to do stuff with your kids and your
Mm.
family that
Mm.
you're grateful for. Maybe you're not grateful for the actual job that you're in, right? But there's
Mhm.
other stuff you can be grateful for. And then it shifts your energy when you go into your job, because it gives you that moment of like, okay, yes, I'm here doing this and I don't love what I do, but I love what I get as a result of what I'm doing, if that makes sense. That was a bit of a tongue twister, but
Well, that's
hopefully
okay.
that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and I hear you. I hear you very well. I am, I pastored for uh, over 32 years. Just retired back in December, and I started this podcast probably about 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months before I retired, because I want to continue my ministry, with
Mhm.
encouraging, inspiring, and hopefully transforming lives. Even though I was leaving the pastorate, I didn't want to leave the ministry. And,
Mhm.
and so um, I always ask guests, and I try to get guests who can give uh, an encouraging and inspiring word to someone. And you seem to be one of those guests that I felt comfortable or bringing on the podcast, because I feel like you've been through something, you started something, and you can help somebody along the way. So I noticed that in looking at your profile, there's one of the things that you say, one piece of advice that you would like to share with listeners that may help them along the journey to creating a life they love. And I'm asking you if you could share that and also kind of give an encouraging word, inspiring word to somebody who may or be interested in moving forward. Just they're in a ditch, they're depressed, they've got some other problems that they're dealing with, but they want to kind of get out of the rut. What is
Mhm.
it that you would say to them?
So one thing I would encourage the listeners to do is an activity that I've kind of renamed and enhanced over the years, and it was something that I went through, many years ago, and I call it my dream day. And one of the things I encourage everyone to do is get a notepad and a pen, a journal and a pen, have some quiet time. And what I want them to think about is, what does a dream day look like for you?
Hmm.
When you wake up in the morning, from the moment you open your eyes, what do you see? Who do you see? What activities do you enjoy throughout that dream day? You want to write it in the present tense. It's super important. And you want to write it in terms of feeling it, like really experience this dream day. And the
Mhm.
reason I encourage people to do is, I remember when I first went through it, I wasn't close to living my dream day and I had to stretch a lot with it. However, what was so powerful about it is it gave me some clarity of what I wanted to create. And
Mm.
over the years, I've done it again and again. Because as you grow, you move to another level, and now your dream day expands. And I've already been living portions of my dream day that I wrote about way back then. And so now I continue to revisit it. And the reason I encourage people to do it is because it gives you that clarity of where you're going. And oftentimes when we're in those challenging, frustrating moments, that's when I used my dream day. When I was
Mm.
in those times where I was frustrated, it was like, okay, what am I doing all this for? I could visualize my dream day, and it continued. And again, it's that hope, right? Moving
Mhm.
forward. And so I did create a workbook that goes through the dream day in a lot more detail for those who want to go a little bit deeper. It is available on Amazon or on my website, and it explains it, because you do want to look at your dream day in multiple areas, from a spiritual standpoint, physical, your home and environment, your relationship. So we break it down and ask some prompt questions. That being said, you can just get a journal and start thinking about it and just start writing, like just
Mm.
really, but the key is to write in that present tense as if you're living it and have that feeling, and it will inspire you. And the other piece that I encourage is, especially when you have that dream day or you have a goal or a dream, every single day, do something that is taking you closer to living that dream
Mm.
or
Mm.
hitting that goal. It can be small. Everybody has a full schedule. There's a lot on the go. If you can do more than one thing, do more than one thing, because it'll help you hit your goal faster. However, even if you just do one thing before you close your eyes at night, before you go to bed and have that moment of gratitude and prayer and reflection, what is one thing that you did that day that's going to help you move forward? And then just
Mm.
continue to build upon that.
Well said. Well said. I know listeners will be taking this to heart. That is some very good information. And thank you so much for sharing that. Uh, Listeners, are going to place. Hang around. We got a few more questions. And we want to ask Phoebe, who has just given us some great information today. But first of all, I want to ask Phoebe if somebody's interested in you, your book, or wherever, or what they can find about you, or where they can find your book. Could you share a little bit about that with them?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. So the book is available on Amazon and most book retailers as well, like Barnes and Noble and different places, but you can absolutely grab it on Amazon. Also, if you go to my website, which is neverquitonabadday.com, you can actually get a free chapter up from the book. And I chose this chapter specifically because it's all about belief, and it's all about our language. What words are we saying to ourselves? Because language have power, and language can help move you closer to your goals, or it can hold you back. And so that chapter is available for free just by visiting the website. You can pop your email in there and we'll send you a copy of that chapter from the book. And then you can also learn more about the contributors in the book. There's the workbook that's available on the website as well too. And that's the best way to get in touch with me as well, or through Instagram and Facebook. And it's just Never Quit on a Bad Day.
I love it. I love it. Tell us, baby, why did you write the book? Just curious. Why did you write a book, and how did you come up with the idea for the book?
Yeah, it's interesting because if you had asked me last year, James, would I have be on this podcast talking about a book I wrote, I would have probably said, no, not really. However, one thing is I'm very open in terms of opportunities where I can help and serve and just contribute. And so I was actually with some friends of mine and I was sharing with them how I've had it on my heart for years to create something to encourage and inspire. And just because I've been encouraged and inspired by so many people along my journey. And they actually suggested write a book. And I chuckled a little bit because I was like, I've had people over the years who have suggested to write a book, and I just wasn't sure if that's the direction I wanted to go in. And earlier that day, I had shared how I worked on a big goal with some incredible people, and the reason I did work so hard with those incredible people is because I wanted other people to see that someone could do it too. You could live in another country. You can be, a person of color. You can be single. You can be a woman. You can be all these things, and you can still do it. And so they kind of shared, well, the same reason I worked so hard on that is why a book would be of value, because it would help inspire people. And so when they said that, I was like, okay, maybe. However, if I'm going to write a book, it has to do two things. I'm like, number one, it has to help and inspire and encourage people. It has to. And number two, I have to feel passionate about the content of this book. And later that night, I was kind of simmering on it a little bit. And the month before that conversation, I had extreme honor, and I was inducted into the Coquitlam Sports Hall of Fame. And in that, we had an interview process, and they asked, what has sport given me? And I shared a lot of the life skills. And I said, I've also had incredible highlights like championships and, on different levels, and then also personal accolades as well. And I said, however, the only reason I've been able to have those highs and those championships and personal success and whatnot is because of all the tough stuff, not making a team, sitting on the bench, only getting 5 minutes of, all those other things, and pushing through it. And so when I was reflecting on the idea of a book, I remember that conversation. And then I was like, that's what I want to write a book about. I want to write a book that shares some of the stories behind the stories, because I know that when people hear stuff that people have gone through, even if they don't have the exact same situation, there's parallels they can pull from it. There's lessons they can pull from it that they can apply to their own journey as well.
Wow.
And so,
wow.
Yeah, that's where the theme came from.
Never quit on a bad day. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Who's the book kind of written for? Did you write it for any particular person or anything in particular that you were thinking about when you decided to write it?
Yeah. So if we circle back to how we started with those questions, like, have you ever wanted to quit on a goal, a dream,
Okay.
a job, a business, have you ever wanted to quit on something? That's who this book is written for people who, when they hear that question, they go, yeah, I have felt frustrated. I have felt discouraged. I have felt, disheartened. And so this book is really for anyone who's ever had a goal, a dream, something they want to go forward to accomplish. And they felt these little speed bumps. They felt these detours. They felt these setbacks. That's who the book is for, because it really is a book about the reader, in the sense that, yes, it has short stories. However, at the end of every story, there's a QR code that the reader can hover their phone over, and it'll take you to a video from that contributor. And that video is a video of encouragement that I just ask them, what's on your heart that you want to share? And it's usually they're 2 to 4 minute short little inspirational videos. And then also there's an area at the end of every chapter called Reflections on Resilience. And that is a chance for the reader to grab their pen and start reflecting on their own life and their own journey, and start to do some work on, from their own personal life. And the thing that, because I love to read, and I said how one of the things that I wanted with a book was, I didn't want it just be for the reader to read it and be like, yes, I feel great. I wanted the reader to feel like, yes, I feel great, and I am great. I've done some great stuff in the past. I can pull something that I learned back there and bring it over, because oftentimes I think we forget just how resilient we are as people. And so the book really helps the reader to remember, reflect, grow, so that they can move forward in their own greatness and accomplish whatever they're looking to accomplish too.
Well, I was going to ask you about, the uniqueness of your book, but I tell you, you've already told me all of that. So let me just ask you this last question that I want you to respond to. What is one activity or exercise that has helped you grow on your journey to create a life you love? Because I think that's important, especially when people are going to be reading a book, they're going to be taking it all in, and they want to know, how did you get there? What are you all about? Talk about that just a little bit for us, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So I think I covered two big pieces. One is the
Mhm.
gratitude, right?
Yeah.
That's been huge. The dream
Hmm.
day has been massive as well
Hmm.
too. The other thing I just, recently, even with the name of the book, so I say I do this thing with God. I call it my open the door and close the door. And in the
Okay.
sense of, when I decided, okay, yes, I'm feeling like I'm supposed to move forward in writing this book. In terms of the name, I had heard the saying "never quit on a bad day" a long time ago, and I thought, I'm like, oh, that's such a, like, I loved it, and so I thought, okay, you know what? I feel like this should be the name of the book.
Okay.
But again, I put it forward in my open. Am I really supposed to be writing this book? I really wasn't sure, and so I kind of said, okay, God, I would love the name to be "Never Quit on a Bad Day." So open the door if that domain name's available. I know you're saying move in this direction, or close the door. The domain name isn't available, then either I'm not, that's not supposed to be the name, or I'm supposed to, explore another name, or maybe I'm not supposed to be writing this book right now. And so I was absolutely shocked. I was actually kind of in this, like, you can close the door on this one if you want, kind of mode. And then the domain name was available. And so that's one thing I just challenge like listeners, have that moment of like, okay, is this the way I'm supposed to go? Should I take this leap of faith? Should I walk through this door and see what happens? And when you throw that out there, you will get answers. You may not always like the answers, but you will get an answer. And then it's up to you to take that step forward.
Wow. Well said. I tell you, Phoebe, this has been awesome. You've been an awesome guest, and I'm just excited to have had you on this podcast today. You've just been great. And there you have it. Phoebe Trotman, who is a successful and heart-centered entrepreneur based in Vancouver, Canada, and she is passionate about helping others discover their joy. What an awesome interview. And so until next time, peace and blessings to each of you.